Welcome back. Sports, Arts and Culture Minister Zizi Kodwa says government should focus on school sports development if South Africa wants to be a winning nation. He was delivering his department's budget vote in Parliament. Kodwa announced that his department has set aside about 229 million rand for sports development in schools. And of course, to talk us through some of this, we are now indeed joined by the Deputy Minister for the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, and she joins us via our Zoom link. Her name is Nocawe Mafu. Deputy Minister, thank you so much for joining us here on the Late Edition.
Good evening, Mbali, and thank you very much for inviting us.
All right.
And good evening to the viewers at home.
And when you're looking at the 2022-2023 budget in particular, if you could just talk us through what are the key focus areas. We've seen, of course, in my intro there, just talking about what the minister had outlined. But if you could just take us through some of those key focuses that you would be focusing on as a department.
Thank you so much, Mbali. First of all, the department is the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture. So obviously, the areas therefore would be the sport, it would be the arts sector, the heritage. But on the sports side, you would have what we call the winning nation and what we call the grassroots sport, which involves the school sport, which is a pet child of the minister. Minister is very passionate about school sport. That is the pipeline of development in the country. If we can get our ducks in a row and have our things right around the school sport, we can have more people that were able to produce around the issue of sport. The second area, of course, that the minister spoke passionate about is the issue of the two bills that are sitting at the NCOP right now, which are meant to make sure that they make lives easy for the artists, the copyright bill and the performance bill. Because as you know, right now, the program before you came in, Bali, it was actually talking about what is happening to Makadzi and the whole area of what is that as government can assist artists to make sure that their lives are made easy and those contracts are not binding and make their lives difficult. We will, as soon as those bills are passed, we will be making sure that we do the roadshow and make sure that we educate and make sure that people know their rights. But the most important part about our budget is the issue of the heritage landscape. There's a lot that we need to do to make sure that we try and rebalance what had happened previously around the geographical names, around the issue of the heritage museums, and we have a lot that we need to do around the issue of making sure that at schools we are able to teach our children, the artists at school, and we are making sure that there would be ambassadors that would go into the schools, into the communities. And one of the past projects there is the issue of the art centers in communities, which is very critical. Of course, we don't have a lot of money because the whole budget of the department value is about 6.3 billion. And we argue that the department is doing a lot around nation building and social cohesion. And there is a need to relook at making sure that there is partnership from private sector to make sure that this department works, because we can't say we're going to get more money from government. There's more money needed for education. There's more money needed for houses. So we're not going to get more money, but we need partnerships with the private sector around these issues.
Yes. Deputy Minister, one thing in particular that you continue to be criticized for in your department is the issue from artists in this country. And you touch on the issue of copyright and saying that that will be one of the key focus areas that you will be looking at. if perhaps you could also just enlighten us when it comes to arts in particular, what are the interventions you will be making? I hear you also speaking about art centers, very important for our country. Will you now be delivering these art centers even to townships and rural communities so that, more communities can get this kind of access to art?
Yes, Mbali. Actually, our department wants to make sure that every township has got an art center. Every district, every municipality must have an art center, because that is where we are going to be able to unearth talent at the rural areas, at the townships. So we can't want to believe that the talent is in the urban areas, because the art centers are mostly there, but we need to have these art centers exactly where people are, and that's the townships and the rural areas. And we are very clear about that. That's exactly what we're going to do.
And coming to, assisting these artists in our country, and you speak of this legislation that, you'll be looking into in terms of copyright. And, you even made reference to the show just before us where we saw Bakadzi also there. And we know she has been in some sort of squabble when it comes to a copyright. And we've seen this on social media. How exactly will you be assisting these artists, especially with legislation problems, as well as, what we are seeing now with this copyright intervention?
Look, I think a lot of, we need to make sure that there is a lot of education and empowerment of our artists about their rights. And of course, it cannot be us alone as the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture. The Department of Labor and Employment, I think, must come to the party, but also the department where the bills themselves come from, which is the Department of Trade and Industry. I think what we need to do is to actually come together as government, all these departments, even the Department of Communication, come together and be able to empower the artists and make sure that at least all of them, they understand what their rights are. Because sometimes when you are an artist and somebody comes to you with say, you must sign, you are desperate, and sometimes you don't even read through. So there should be a process where we are able to empower artists, at least to understand the basics of what is it that they are signing for. And I think as the department, this is, if we can do anything, this is one thing that we should do, because we have seen how the artists are being crippled by this process, because most of them, they don't have legal people to go to and ask them for advice. And these are the things that we need to look at and see what is it that we can put in place to make sure that they don't get abused through this process.
And Deputy Minister, very short, we have run out of time. What other plans do you have for the Arts and Culture Department for this financial year?
Look, you know, Mbali, that we have got a World Cup that is coming. The Netball World Cup is coming here in 80 days. And we just want to remind South Africans that we must support this World Cup. It is in Cape Town from the 28th of July to the 6th of August. And the SPA Proteas, which are number 5 in the world rankings, will be representing us. And we must all support them and make sure that they actually make sure that the cup remains here. By the way, the trophy is arriving into the country on the 25th of May, on After Day, and it will be landing in King Shaka Airport in KwaZulu-Natal. So right. Yeah, that's one of the exciting things that we are looking forward to.
All right, then thank you very much, Deputy Minister. That is the Deputy Minister, Nocawe Mafu, for the Arts and Culture and Sports Department.